Geek to me radio, da 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 da. Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to another all-new edition of Geek to Me Radio. A full show. First, we'll have Anthony from Soda and Telepaths on, talking about the End of the World Anthology and how you can back that project on Kickstarter. Then we've got a whole host of guests celebrating the career of George Pérez. In studio, we have Larry Quiggins of Bugs Comics, Rick Burchett of the DC Comics world, and of course, Ron Marz will join us later. All that and more. Stand by.
Comics and movies and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek and Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And for those of you driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight, hearing us on the Big 550 KTRS, thank you very much for tuning in. If you are streaming us out there in the world, thank you very much for finding us. And, of course, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, wherever you might get your podcast from, whatever platform it might be, thank you very much for finding us there. Hopefully you have subscribed. And if you could take a moment to leave us a lovely 5-star rating, we greatly appreciate that. A full show with a lot happening. We're going to get right to it. My first guest is Anthony from Soda and Telepaths. They are running a Kickstarter for an End of the World Anthology, 160-page, full-color anthology, and we're going to talk about that. They're halfway there, and I'm bringing him in now. Anthony, how are you?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Good, doing well. Thanks so much for the time today. Kickstarters, I love having people on who are doing Kickstarters because you can never get enough support behind these things. It's all these great artists and writers working on brilliant things that aren't mainstream and bringing that to the larger audience. There's a lot of people who are hungry for something that isn't of the big two right now. So tell us about End of the World.
So, producing The End of the World is a 160-page anthology which concentrates on the humanism in End of the World scenarios. It's 18 stories, 12 writers, 12 artists, 18 writers, and we're pretty confident that there's going to be an End of the World story in here for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when you think of the end of the world, I mean, we just had 2012, wasn't that long ago, and I think of the Mayan calendar, things like that, but there's always some of the best Twilight Zone episodes were these post-apocalyptic scenarios that went on. So I think it's kind of fascinating when someone says post-apocalyptic, how that resonates in certain people's minds. And then in the fact that you've got this anthology, we're going to see several different people's creative takes on it, all brought into full-color life. Talk a little bit about... just from your standpoint alone, we'll talk to you for a moment. What is your scariest end-of-the-world scenario?
Scariest end-of-the-world scenario would be a solar storm, because it would knock out all of the electrical devices. It'd be like a giant sort of EMP bomb went off, and then all of a sudden we had no internet, we'd have no communication. That would probably be the scariest for me. I feel like I've got zombies pretty down pat, because if there's a zombie outbreak in Australia, I'll just head to the centre of Australia and I'll be fine, because I doubt they can walk that far.
That's true. That's a good point, especially as long as they're those slow ones and not the fast moving runs in that latest Zack Snyder when he did Dawn of the Dead. That was kind of freaky seeing them run that quickly.
Yep, 100%.
And with this project, I mean, there's all sorts of, there's the story Champagne Shelter. Scavenger comes across a man and woman who seem to not have noticed the world blip around them. From Abby Denton and Paul Gorey. Dark Storm, a world that has been destroyed by a never-ending storm. Two women search for a solution, but are they just chasing false hope? From Adam Burt, Richard Kemp. When you were designing this particular anthology, what was kind of like the cutoff? Because obviously you don't want to make it too big, because there's obviously many people who could have contributed to it. How did you form which stories would go in and things like that?
So believe it or not, we got a lot of similar stories that were pitched to us. We got a lot of robot stories, so many robot stories, in fact, that it made it really easy to cut out the weaker players. So that was basically it. We sort of grouped it into different categories. So we had like your robot stories, we had some satirical stories, we had zombie stories, even though I said to everyone not to send in zombie stories, but hey, people like to not listen. And we had adventure stories. We had stories where it happened in space and observing the world sort of imploding. But it was just a matter of sort of grouping them into categories, finding out which categories we were most interested in, and then just going through them pretty, I guess, systematically, and removing those that weren't as strong as some of as the people that ended up getting into the anthology.
So I guess that was the biggest thing, is hunting out different stories that were kind of not as alike as other ones. Did a robot one make it into the anthology though?
Yeah. Definitely a killer robot.
And again, I always think of the Twilight Zone because I can't remember how many times that they destroyed the world in that. Either it was blown up by nuclear war in The Last Pallbearer, or I think most of it was nuclear war now that I'm thinking about it, like Time Enough at Last with Burgess Meredith. But there's always those end-of-the-world scenarios, and I think that that might be one of the reasons these stories resonate with people, because people always expect the worst to happen, and I think they it's almost comforting to see it play out away from where we are in another world or something like that, and some of these futures and things like that. So it's always very fascinating to see this. Taking on this particular Kickstarter, did it present any new or different challenges for you than you've experienced in the past?
So previously project managed 4 Kickstarters, which all funded. The biggest challenge we had was the budget. It's quite a big budget. It's just sits below 40,000 Australian. So it's I think that's about 28 grand US. So that was the biggest challenge we had, just or are having. So just trying to do as much as we can on the marketing front to engage people.
And it is, I noticed Kickstarter website did give you a Project We Love badge. So that's one of the ones that's high marks from Kickstarter itself to be kind of chosen on that merit as well.
Yeah, that did nothing for us.
Oh, no. That's sad to hear.
It's a nice little sticker, but it didn't do anything that affected, how getting extra people. I haven't had anyone say to me, "Oh yeah, I saw it's a project we love," and I decided to back it because of that. It's really what we've got so far is from our own blood, sweat, and tears.
And you are halfway there. I mean, there's still 6 days to go, so it's not that this couldn't be fulfilled. Obviously, you're over halfway there, and that's, if you were sitting way low, then I would think that might be kind of daunting for you. But this is something, obviously, that is still easily doable. You've already got over 300 backers, half the way there. And this would be a great time to, if someone likes independent stuff, you could donate to the Kickstarter and then give this to a person for Christmas and give them a little card. Say, hey, when this is done, here's your Christmas gift, and they can expect it in the mail. So if you're looking for a holiday gift for somebody, this would be a great thing to do. Back this, give it to somebody as a gift. That's a brilliant thing to do for Christmas.
100%. And if you're one of those people out there that thought, as far as COVID goes, it's been a very boring end of the world scenario, then back this. There's a lot more interesting stories to tell.
So no pandemic stories, folks. This will all be much more action-packed than 2020 was for most of us, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
With the artists and the writers, are there people in this who you've worked with in the past, or is it mostly new talent that you've kind of got for this one?
No, completely new talent.
Oh, great. Okay.
There are some people that are known within the indie scene of having done a few anthologies that have taken a part of this anthology, but completely new. And
just out of curiosity, if this somehow doesn't make it all the way through in the next 6 days, is there a plan to relaunch it? Is it going to kind of be a different imagining of it? Worst case scenario, what would this look like if you don't make the full, I think it's 28,000, what was it, 28,432. If you don't hit that goal, how does End of the World move forward next?
So I'm looking at the positives. So I could look at the negatives, but I'm looking at the positives. The positives is we've gotten 325 new people that we can market to if we decide to repackage it. My plan to repackage it is to repackage it as 3 to 4 floppy comics where people might not get all of the stories at once, but they'll get them all in some package or another. So that's the plan, and it's proven that we can get enough to see that happen. So that's the plan.
And once this Kickstarter is fully funded and backed, how long? Just if someone's listening and thinking, well, if I back this, how long is it going to take for me to get this? Do you guys have a timeline planned out? Do you think it'll be like within a certain time frame in order from people from the time they pledge to the time they get the books? What's the time frame someone might be looking at?
So the timeline is May, and that's worst case scenario. We only need to letter the book, and that's it. We just need to letter it. All the art is complete. All the writing's complete. It just needs to be lettered and sent off to printing. So, that's all that needs to happen.
And if you're listening right now, there's a lot of different ways you can back this. Just go to Kickstarter.com and look for End of the World, or you can search Soda and Telepaths. You can just throw in the $10 back it because you believe in the project. That's always a great thing to do. There's the tip jar. There's always different layers to Kickstarter, so there might be different things you can come in at if you want to hit a certain goal that get the end physical scripts and everything like that, all the way to the director's cut. All sorts of different levels you can donate at depending on what you feel comfortable with. So if you're wanting to back independent artists and writers and help them out, this is a great project. The art on this, even if you just get a chance to go to the Kickstarter page and look at the art, it's stunning art. A lot of really cool things, all the different post-apocalyptic scenes you'll see here from some of the art that's up. And do you have a favorite backing tier that you when you created this? Do you have a favorite backing tier that you've got up there so far, Anthony?
So one of the things we did is I'm someone that really misses DVDs and DVD commentary. I really miss that, and I think that's the number one thing that a lot of people have lost when it comes to streaming TV. So what we did is each person that supports at the director's cut tier level gets a one podcast episode per each story.
Oh, cool!
Where I sit down with the writer and the artist, and it's just going to be very unedited, uncut, and we're going to talk about obviously the process, but also if we got annoyed with each other, then that'll be in there. But it's that is the one I think where you get the most value.
They might hear a little infighting. That's kind of fun to hear those. But no, I completely know what you're talking about, because that's one of the reasons when I went out and started getting DVDs and Blu-rays, I'd always look at the back. Yep, there's director's commentary. Yep, there's behind-the-scenes stuff. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go ahead and buy this one, because it's very important when you're buying, you're spending your hard-earned money. You want to get physical media that's going to be something that you're going to get some use out of and really dig into and enjoy. So that is a very cool perk. And again, if you're listening, Kickstarter.com, just search Soda and Telepaths or End of the World Anthology, and that should come right up. You'll see the, according to Anthony, very useless sticker that tells him it's a project that Kickstarter loves, and it's already halfway there, so we need to do a little more than halfway to get it to that final goal in the next 6 days. This is a great one to back, in my opinion. Anthony, tell people where they can find you, Soda and Telepaths. Tell them about kind of what you guys do and where they can catch up with you on social media.
At Soda Telepaths, plural, and pretty much everything's, all the links are there to the Kickstarter, and you can easily find my personal profile on there as well.
And of course, at the anthology on Twitter, at Producing the End, you can make sure to follow them there and across social media. And like I said, this is a great project to back. Joining us all the way from Australia, Anthony, I appreciate your time tonight so much. Thanks very much for being on the show.
Thanks, mate.
Take care. Be well. There he goes. Yeah, that's a great project to back. So make sure, again, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. If you're listening to this right now in the podcast form, scroll down the page. You'll see in the show notes a link to the Soda and Telepaths social media, as well as the End of the World Kickstarter. We hope we get them to their final goal before the end of the next 6 days. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come right back and talk Little Spider-Man, spoiler-free, and we'll also celebrate the career of George Pérez with my in-studio guests and people who are on the phone. Coming to you right after this. Please stand by.
Hi, this is Brent Spiner. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We're back. Geek to Me Radio live on the Big 550. Thanks once again to Anthony from Soda and Telepaths. Make sure you check out the Kickstarter to help him hit his goal on that. Obviously, big news on the movie front. I think this is our first big, massive hit post-pandemic. Spider-Man No Way Home did a little over $250 million at the domestic box office, which is huge. And in studio to talk about it right now, we have Larry Quiggins, owner of Bugs Comics, multi-Eisner Award-winning artist Rick Burchett also. Rick has not seen Spider-Man, but he says he already knows pretty much everything that happens anyway because he's an insider.
Yeah, that's me, the insider.
So just real quick, just to talk about it, I think for me, this is one of the first movies that I've ever given a 10 out of 10 to in my movie reviews. I haven't even written it because I'm trying to keep away from spoilers for people, but I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I think, in my opinion, it is the perfect comic book movie. Gentlemen, agree, disagree?
I can agree. I still need to see it a second time so I can put my final stamp on whether if I would say 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
But as a Spider-Man, huge Spider-Man fan, as anybody who know me knows, I was so emotional at the end of it. There's so much to absorb, so much good stuff. I mean, we could spend hours talking about this movie. It's so good. If you haven't seen it, go out to see it.
Yeah, and I think there's enough there for people who are very familiar with the Raimi trilogy and the Mark Webb 2 movies that Andrew Garfield did, and it's enough to satisfy people who haven't seen those. But if you have seen them and invested the time to see all, what is this now, 8 Spider-Man movies, this is definitely 6 Spider-Man movies. Anyway, it's definitely worth a...
It's the 8th.
Is it? Okay. So yeah,
3
it's definitely... 3 Toby, 2 Garfield.
3 Holland.
And if you count Civil War with him showing up as well. So, yeah. But, yeah, I think, definitely worth it. I don't know if we've talked about a lot of other things. I know you're a Captain America guy. Yeah. Are you a big Spider-Man guy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the first issue of Spider-Man I bought off the spinner rack in my little town drugstore was issue number 3.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
You still have it?
Yes.
After we get off the air, I'll ask where your address is for no particular reason at all. That's amazing.
My first one was 4.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Mine was 244, so I was a little later.
Oh, these kids. These kids.
But yeah, I mean, you said you haven't seen it, but you heard a lot about it. Right?
Yeah.
So based on what you hear, you think it's it's going to live up to the hype for you?
I mean, it's to have everything in it that it purported to have in it. If they pulled it off, if that's a lot. That's like putting a bowling ball in a nylon stocking, you know.
Yeah.
And if they made it work. And the only thing going through my mind is, this is the guy that's going to direct the Fantastic Four.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that, and that makes me very, very happy.
Yeah. And honestly, I got to say, and I've said this, Max on Movies will join us later for those of you who are 550 fans. You've heard Max on Movie right here on the Big 550 KTRS. I was not a fan of MCU Spider-Man. I love Tom Holland. I think he's a great Peter Parker, but I didn't like him always being in the shadow of Iron Man. He almost felt like Iron Boy more than Spider-Man. But this is the first film that really he steps out on his own. It felt like a Spider-Man movie again, which I really enjoyed that too.
I can understand that. I mean, the whole concept with Peter being under Tony Stark is kind of from the Ultimate Comics. Mm-hmm. So they kind of stepped away from the regular Marvel Universe with that concept. So you are right that this one, there's very little spoken of Tony, actually. Yeah. Whereas the last one, was all about grieving Tony and trying to be the next Tony, I guess you could say. But, I agree. This was a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
And like we said, it gives closure to all the Spider-Man movies.
Right.
Not just the recent 3, but all of them.
Do you have plans to see it like soon, or are you going to wait a while longer?
Yeah, I do. My younger son saw it today, and when I get home, I'm sure he's got lots of questions. So, we'll see. But yeah, as soon as we can.
Very cool. Yeah, and again, if you're listening right now, we're going to try to do as few commercials as possible, but I want to make sure if you're listening right now, go see the movie in a Marcus Theaters. Marcus Theaters, obviously one of the show sponsors here on Geek to Me Radio, the official movie sponsor. Go to the website, marcustheaters.com. You can find the location of the Marcus Theaters or the movie tavern closest to you, so you can buy your tickets right there online. You can also check out movie reviews. You can see if there's something else playing, like maybe you've already seen Spider-Man, or you're going to wait till family comes in town so you can see it over Christmas. There are a lot of other movies playing right now. West Side Story is out there. Nightmare Alley is absolutely brilliant if you get a chance to see that one. So there's lots of good stuff out there, and there's no better gift to give during the holidays than the gift of movies, too. So if you get a Marcus Theaters gift card, I think they give you 15% back on purchases of gift cards, $50 or more. And make sure while you're on the website, you join. Try that again. I like to buy a vowel. Join the Magical Movie Rewards program, which allows you to get points back for seeing movies and buying concessions. That way, when you buy your snow caps and your popcorn, you can use those points to see future movies and everything like that. It's a great time to go see movies, and I'm so glad for the movie theaters, for Spider-Man, for all of the fans out there who love seeing these movies, that it really feels like they're back on the big screen, with this one making $250 million for its domestic opening weekend. So thank you, Sony. Thank you, Disney. And thank you, Marcus Theaters, providing a great place to go see movies. Once again, marcustheaters.com for the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. Shifting gears, the recent announcement came out, I think it was little under 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. George Pérez, one of the most amazing artists out there, just announced via his Facebook page that he's been diagnosed with stage 3 pancreatic cancer, and he's been given roughly 6 to 8 months left to live. He's handling it in a very upbeat George Pérez type fashion, saying he's eschewing any kind of therapy because he doesn't want to be his last days to be doctor visits and hospital things and treatments. He wants to, embrace his family, celebrate the holidays, and he says he wants to have one more event where he actually gets to meet and hug his fans. So keep an eye on the website for that as well. But I thought we would dedicate this show to the celebration of what we love best about his art, his style, maybe a personal experience or anecdote. We've got some people who are going to be calling in later on. Ron Marz, a prolific writer who Green Lantern, Silver Surfer, DC versus Marvel. He'll be on the phone later to give his thoughts about George. Our own Maxo Movies will call in. He's met him a couple times. BK on the Air from Atlanta will call in as well to share his thoughts. Right off, we'll go around. Rick, you're the Eisner Award-winning artist. What do you, when you think of George Pérez, he doesn't look like he was influenced by anyone, in my opinion. He's a very distinct style, all his own. How would you, as an artist, describe his style?
When I think of George's stuff, I think of a lot of panels on a page. I think of a lot of people in those panels, and I think of very detailed costumes.
Yes.
There was a story going around for a long time. I don't know how true it is, but because I never asked George this, but it was said that he worked on his couch. He would sit on his couch with his back against the armrest and draw on a lapboard. Now, I don't know if that's true. It might be apocryphal. I don't know. But that's what I've always heard. And if so, I mean, he was pretty comfortable when he was working. And that's how he got the... No. But, yeah, I also remember when I was working regularly for DC, and I broke in as an inker, mostly an inker, and I used to pray that they wouldn't call me and ask me to ink George Pérez, because I can't imagine, because at the time I was hitting like 2 pages a day of inks. There's no way I could ink a page of George's and get 2 of them in one day. There's just so much going on. I can't imagine the scripts that he got had that many panels on a page. I'm sure as a person who is notorious for adding panels to a page, I'm sure he did that in a lot of places to help tell the story. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's necessary. And the thing is there's an adage. There's been a saying in comics for a long time that to be successful in comics, you need to be good at your job, or you need to be dependable, or you need to be easy to work with. If you have two of those three things, you can be successful in comics. And I think George is one of those rare individuals that had all three.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you? Do you remember? You've obviously probably run across him at a convention here or there, or something like that. So
yeah, and really, he is so committed to his fans that the best I could get is "Hi, George," and he'd say "Hi, Rick," and that'd be it.
Yeah, yeah. He's always has his head down every time I go by because he's signing things. Yeah. And I know, Larry, you and I talked about this. He was at MightyCon here in St. Louis, I think.
Yes.
And he was also here at Westport Plaza.
Ago.
A little before that, but he's one of those people. And I think it's brilliant. He gives out tickets. So because he will stop if he's taking you got 6 books to sign. Okay, thank you. There's your 6 books. Next person, you got 6 books. Oh, you want a sketch? The line halts because he's going to do the sketch for that person right there. So he brilliantly comes up with the idea of I'm going to hand out tickets. Come back within a certain time. If your ticket's been called, you're the very next person in line. If not, you can check back, and we'll, So I think that's a great way to keep the conventions moving while he can do a sketch, because he will stop everything right there and do these sketches on the comic book covers or whatever else, and it's really kind of neat because you can just stand there and watch him. Yeah.
He is all about his fans and the people who appreciate his work.
Yes.
He's a sweetheart of a guy. What can I say?
Definitely one of the most gracious of the professionals of all that I've met.
Yeah, he really is. He's, wonderful guy.
And you said you talked to him at a when you owned the store before at a
back in the
conference?
90s when Diamond Comics and Capital Comics had all their big seminars to, push the products to us retailers. I remember having a pretty good conversation with him at one of them, and he autographed something for me, and then without me asking, he did it, because I think we were talking about Infinity Gauntlet at the time, and he did a sketch of Thanos, a profile of Thanos for me, and I was like, I didn't even ask for that. Thank you so much. But like I said, one of the most gracious.
Yeah.
I've talked to so many professionals, and as talented as he is, and to me, he's one of the top 5.
And also, when you stop to consider the amount of effort he puts into his pages, the fact that the man is so dependable, you didn't. If George was on a book, you didn't have to worry about it missing a shipping date.
No,
it was going to come in.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about him as an artist is, like Rick made the comment about so many characters in a panel and on a page. Yeah. He loved to do teams.
Yeah, he did.
And he wanted to do as many characters as he could in a team. To me, his opus was the Avengers versus Justice League.
Yeah.
That came out. I mean, he drew every Avenger, every Justice League member, in every costume at some point of the history of both books in that series. And it was, to me, still one of the best,
I can't imagine, because I think it's each cover, if I'm not mistaken, it was if the cover front and back, you opened the book and it would make a big tableau.
Yeah.
But I think, if I'm not mistaken, each issue had a few more Avengers on it, a few more X-Shield. Issue number 4 was literally anyone who had been a Justice Leaguer and anyone who had been an Avenger. Yes. I can't imagine how long that took him to do.
They all appeared, yeah.
That's insane.
As a fan, it was just like a gift.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a gift.
Yeah.
From somebody, for me, mid-'70s, when I was in my early teens, that's when I first started really noticing who artists were in comics. I knew I liked art and what I didn't and didn't like, but him and Jim Starlin were the two that I knew that name. And if I saw their name when I opened up the book, I knew this is going to be wonderful. Yeah. I'm going to love this. I don't care who the character is, what it's about. I'm going to love this book because I love this art.
Yeah.
I'd put a thread out on Facebook about there's several Facebook groups for comic books, and there's one that only covers Marvel from 61 to 86, not a day over 86.
Yes, I'm in
They're
that group
very
with you.
strict, yeah. So I posted Uncanny X-Men. I guess it was All New, All Different X-Men at that point. 112 is one of my favorite George Pérez covers, with Wolverine trying to hold his claws back from coming at him.
I forgot that was a Pérez cover until you posted that, actually.
But that's, I think, one of those rare things. A lot of people think, that run of X-Men, burn and copper.
Burn.
Yeah, so
right.
They don't get a lot of. But that's, I saw that cover, and that was one of the, he's tossing Colossus against the wall. He's Magneto, and he's throwing, Wolverine's arm against him. But that's one of my favorite covers, I think, of X-Men, and obviously of George Pérez's run. But that's another one. It's the whole team's there. Storm's in there. Wolverine's in there. So It's another lot of happening. The crackle of Magneto's power blast.
Pérez
and everything
crackle.
else. Yeah. Do you guys have when you think of a favorite cover or a favorite comic book for him?
Well, like I said, the comic-wise, but I remember the cover I posted was Avengers 172 because it was probably the most beautiful shot of Hawkeye standing on the Statue of Liberty.
I think so, yeah.
For me, it's got to be his and Marv's run on the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
That was I really got into that, and it was just so much fun, and it was really, really great.
Titans, too, and speaking of that run, he's one of those who kind of showed that you can have an issue without action and just have, what's going on in their lives and make it so appealing visually and such.
Yeah, and I think he and Marv really made a great team.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of those things that they just meshed so well.
Yes.
And again, talking about those team books, because some of those covers were just completely action-packed. They had one, I think it was, issue number 4 or 5 of New Teen Titans, where it's the Justice League on top, and Teen Titans coming in from the bottom, but there's Hawkman appeared, and you see Hawkman soaring in the background as they're fighting Hive in the foreground. Just there was always somehow they were busy, but it was very streamlined where you didn't notice it was busy.
Yeah. I think the thing about George's work that really is I really, really embrace is the fact that he doesn't really break any new ground as far as superhero art goes. He's not a game changer. He's not, but the virtuosity of how he does it is just, it's like there's nothing is out of place. It's all right there. It's all perfect. The story is told cleanly and concisely, and everybody looks good, and you never have to wonder what's going on. It's just the virtuosity of the guy is just amazing.
I agree. His storytelling is so good.
It's just and to tell a story with that many people in it, that's not easy. You know? I know if I get more than 2 people in a panel, I'm like, forget
Stop it! No,
I gotta change this. But
while we've got you too, I want to say I loved seeing your art lately on Batman: The New Adventures Season 2.
Oh, you're the
DC
one.
Comics currently. It's your art to me is synonymous. I know you're not the biggest Batman fan.
Actually, the fans online aren't the biggest fan.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Gee, it's a good thing I got a thick skin.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen anything.
Oh yeah, I know.
Oh, that's sad because your art style is almost to me synonymous with Batman the Animated Series. Just
the problem. This is about George. This isn't about me. But it's been rough.
I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So
I was gonna say, beautiful book looks beautiful.
Yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to take a quick commercial break. I just texted Ron Marz. He should be calling in soon. We're also going to hear from Max Foisey and BK on the air. Thank you for celebrating the holidays with us. I just didn't realize until just this moment, but this is our last show before Christmas. So happy holidays to all you listening. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Come right back celebrating the career of George Pérez. Please stand by.
Thundercats! Ho! Sword of Omens, come to my hand. I, Lion-O, command it. Hi, this is Larry Kennedy, the voice of Lion-O, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back on Geek to Me Radio. Make sure very quickly we tell you about our premier sponsor, the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. You know them by the website discoverstcharles.com, discoverstcharles.com. This is your last chance to get out and enjoy Christmas traditions. They'll be out Wednesday for the Christmas Carol Stroll. You can walk through the streets of foggy London on South Main, interact with Scrooge, both young and reformed. You'll see the Ghost of Christmas Present, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, Tiny Tim, Bob Cratchit, the Fezziwigs. The whole tableau is right there waiting for you to come through and interact. And, of course, Christmas Eve is the last day you can catch Christmas traditions, and it's full glory with all the international Santas, a bevy of other characters you can talk to and interact with, and, of course, enjoy the festival itself, all the small businesses down there that make up St. Charles, which is so very important in this particular time. So we encourage you to look at the website first, discoverstcharles.com to plan your trip. Come on down, hang out, have some fun. Never a bad time to visit St. Charles. So if you missed that, come on down. They've got an ice sculpting event in January. There's always something going on, whether you're from out of town or here locally. Plan your trip. See what there is that you're missing on the website, discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Talking about the career of George Pérez, in studio with me, we've got multi-Eisner Award winner Rick Burchett. We've got Larry Quiggins, owner of Bugs Comics. We're going to go to the phone now for my radio pen pal, as he always says, BK on the air from Atlanta. How are you?
Good, James. Good evening. How you doing, buddy?
Good, good. Thanks for being on tonight. I know it's a little bit later. It's an hour later on the East Coast there, but you and I talked before earlier this week, and you had said you'd wanted to pay tribute to George Pérez as well.
I did, and thanks for coming on the show yesterday. It was a pleasure having you on my show on WBHF. And George Pérez. I was just as devastated as everybody else hearing the news about George Pérez. I've always been a fan of his art. Very talented guy. And you and I talked about how when we're familiar with a celebrity, be they an actor or a filmmaker, director, or someone just in comic books like a writer or an artist that we admire, we feel that we know these people. And you and I talked a lot about that, but they don't know us, but we know them because we've grown up with them for such a long time. And George Pérez is no different from anybody else like that. I've admired of his work for years. I think the first time I noticed George Pérez's art for me, at least personally, was a 1974 issue of Creatures on the Loose, where he did it was a Man-Wolf issue, number 35 from Marvel. And I think that's probably way back the first issue that I got that I first noticed his art. And he's a talented artist, too. And you know as well as I do his catalog of work and the awards that he's won. Everything that he's done for the Avengers is another great piece of work that he's done. I don't care what era it was, earlier work or later work. I mean, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he was one of the co-creators of the Taskmaster. Is that right?
I believe so. He was the artist on that issue. Yeah. Larry says
and,
yes. Larry's more the expert than I am.
Yeah, I think George, along with and the Taskmaster, just made its film debut in The Black Widow, so the character's still out there. I really enjoyed George Pérez's work in the Korvac saga, and you and I were talking about, at least I was talking with you about how you can see someone else, some other artist's influence in comic book artists. Like, so you're like, oh, that guy's kind of emulating Jack Kirby, or this guy over here, he's kind of influenced by, somebody else. But I could never pinpoint with George Pérez anybody that influenced him. I'm sure that he would be able to say that someone did, but I can't see anyone else's work in George Pérez's artwork, and that to me is the trademark of a true, original, awesome artist, a comic book artist. I think he was one of the main driving forces and probably one of the best artists to ever work on Wonder Woman for DC. Over at DC, you probably agree with me with that too.
Yeah, that was an epic run when they relaunched Superman and Wonder Woman back to back. John Byrne had Superman and George Pérez took Wonder Woman, and that was, I think, a lot of the stuff we saw, and even the movie was kind of influenced by George Pérez's art and his work on that series.
And the JLA/Avengers, kind of a crossover book that they did where they were together. He said he did a lot of great work on that. But I want to point out a work that I've been rediscovering lately that I probably knew was him, but forgot, but rediscovered that it was him. And he did some work for DC for Batman, and you remember it's A Lonely Place of Dying.
Oh, yes.
Story arc. Remember that? I've
got that promo poster where it's Nightwing holding the Robin costume. And George Pérez is the only autograph I don't have, obviously, other than Jim Aparo. But I need to, if George does an event, that's why I'm getting signed.
Yeah, that's right, and it's a fantastic work by him. I was able to meet George at a Dragon Con in Atlanta several years ago at one of his appearances, and had him sign an Action Comics poster that was a reproduction of Superman Action Comics, and he signed it for me, very gracious, and I have that prominently displayed. Beautiful piece of work by George. And I sincerely hope, I don't know whether he is tonight, but I do hope he hears this or is listening to this, or we'll hear it at a later date in a streaming platform you have it available in. But a lot of people are behind him and thinking about him on the social media. It looked like he was very warmed by the reception he was getting after his announcement. But we wish him well and praying for him and his family. Wonderful talent, George Pérez. He really is. Yes, absolutely. Well said. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the show, celebrating George. Tell people, by the way, so if they want to listen to you on Saturdays, where they can find you and keep up with you and hear your show. Well, you and I have the geeky nerd stuff covered on the weekends. You're on Sunday, and everyone can hear me Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern on WBHF Radio. That's WBHFradio.org. Or you can listen live on the free TuneIn app. Download TuneIn for your smart devices or your phone that you have. And you can listen to me via the app. And I also turn it into a podcast after Sunday or Monday. It turns into a podcast. You can find it. Just search for BK on the air, and you'll be able to hear it. And I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, buddy, and a Happy New Year. You too. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Tell all the gang that we said hello here in St. Louis. And it's always good to hear from you, my friend. All right, man. Until next time, thanks for having me on, and appreciate it. Absolutely. Be well. Take care. There he goes, BK on the air. You can check out his show. We'll have a link in the show notes, too, if you want to check out BK's show on Saturday mornings. It's a great way to wake up and hear all the stuff that he has going on his platform down there. I did just get a text from Ron Marz. He should be calling in about another 5 minutes or so. He was out at dinner tonight, but did agree to give us a call and talk about there were so many people, too, that I reached out to and said that it's Sunday. Kurt Busiek evidently said he's got some deadlines coming up. And I didn't know Kurt Busiek has been suffering from migraine since April and is trying to get relief from that. It's just kind of hard for him to concentrate. So he he did apologize. But obviously, Kurt Busiek, their run on Avengers when it came back after the heroes were born, that was a great run for the two of them. It was. I mean, all the titles were really good that came back. But that was, I remember when it was announced that they were going to be the team and bringing back the Avengers. And at the time at the store, I remember everybody was just so excited. It was like the news of the year. Yeah. You're one of those people. I know you and I have talked before, Rick. You collect comics. A lot of people, like Keith Giffen, says, I don't own a single comic book. but you said you've got a fairly good collection. Do you have certain titles that are more favorite of, obviously besides your own, that like an Avengers run or a Spider-Man run or something? Well, see, I was lucky enough to be in on Marvel at the ground floor. And I didn't realize that until recently, how lucky I was to have been born during that time. And so to be present while that happened, I bought every Marvel comic that came out, which was, at the time, 11 books at 12 cents a piece. That's right. 11 books at 12 cents a piece. And X-Men and Daredevil were bi-monthlies. So I actually only had to buy 10 a month. Yeah. So I have all of those early Marvels. Wow, that's amazing. And bags and board them and just have them in storage. You ever? I've got them in boxes and they are in storage, and it's great. I mean, people always ask me, the people I grew up with from my hometown and stuff say, do you still have those comics? I say, yes, I do. That's right. Yeah, I know I recently had to sell my collection, but it's one of the things, I went through and cherry-picked a couple things here and there. But some of those, like I said, the George Pérez Wonder Woman run stands out for me. But as far as Batman, BK was just saying, that Lonely Place of Dying, because that was a crossover between New Titans and Batman at the time, introducing Tim Drake as the third and new Robin. Yes. But the art on that, when it's, Dick's looking at the Robin costume, there's Two-Face and Batman up above, and in the Batcave with Alfred, the light shining on him. Just such a great comic, and it just totally encapsulates what you're going to find in the book. Because sometimes you'll see a cover, and you go through the comic book the cover told me nothing. Right. But I feel like George Pérez's covers always tell you what you're going to get in the book. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's by strange coincidence, my friend Ty Templeton is also really good at doing covers. He does symbolic covers, but they indicate what's going to happen inside. And also, coincidentally, Ty is now undergoing cancer therapy. He's got colorectal cancer. And I was talking to him the other day and asked him how he was doing, and he went through the treatment that he has to undergo. And it doesn't sound like fun. I can imagine. Yeah. So I got my fingers crossed for Ty and George.
So I can see next week we'll have to do a Ty Templeton
I was
tribute.
gonna say, I love his work too.
Yeah, I could talk quite a bit about Ty.
I'm sure.
Ty, that old thing in Reader's Digest, my most interesting character? It's Ty. Regardless of what Ty tells you, it may sound like the biggest lie you ever heard. It's true.
Is it talking about the covers? Is that one of the things when you do a cover for a comic book? Are you given like certain? Here's what we want it to be, or is it?
No.
Do you get the story ahead of time and you can do whatever you want with the cover? How does that work?
Usually they want 3 sketches, 3 different ideas.
Okay.
And you send them in, and they tweak them or not, and choose one of them. But I hate doing covers because I usually have one idea. And coming up with those other 2, it's tough for me.
I guess that's where they get the variant cover ideas from, too, when they're doing variant covers, because that's one of the things that, for a while, especially in the early 2000s, Marvel seemed to be popping out 10 variant covers for every single issue of a comic book, which was kind of daunting, I would think.
Starting to get that way again.
Yeah. And the thing is most of the variant covers now have absolutely nothing to do with what's inside.
Yes.
And
just want to sell covers.
Yeah, that's the new, because it used to be the enhanced covers, the holographic ones, but now they do different variants with different artists, or they'll do a virgin cover, which has none of the text or labeling or title on the cover, which I'm a classic guy. I like the actual.
Yeah, I'm one of those people, and I know there's a lot of people that don't like word balloons on covers, but word balloons don't bother me on covers if they're appropriate and need to be there.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the "What the heck's going on here" cover.
Yeah,
a
cover that what it's like that, and the Joe Kubert "That's What You Think" cover.
Yeah.
I like those too. Okay, easy, come on in. This town's deserted, and there's guys with guns pointed at them.
We've got Ron Marz on the phone, prolific writer. We talked about him earlier, Green Lantern and Silver Surfer. Ron, thanks very much for calling in tonight.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we were talking, it's a George Pérez tribute, and I saw you had a great story that you put on Twitter about George Pérez at a party you guys were at. And I'm not sure if you want to recount that for our listeners, or if you had something else you wanted to say about George, or a favorite story or anecdote.
Well, I mean, geez, I've got a lot of George stories. Everybody has a lot of George stories, but I think the main thing for me is that George was the first artist I ever recognized as a specific person. Like the first artist I recognized as, this style, this drawing, I can recognize it, and I like it better than anybody else. So when George did his first run on Avengers, back in the 70s, I was a pretty small kid, and that was when I first noticed his work. And the level of detail and all of the characters seen all of the time completely drew me in. I was a huge George Pérez fan as a kid, and he was literally the first artist I recognized as an individual, as a person. The first time I really probably even looked at the credits and discovered, this is a guy named George Pérez, and I like his work. I need to look for his work. And obviously, George went on to do everything for everybody, and I eventually followed him over to DC on Teen Titans. But for me, George was the guy. He was the first one that I ever saw as a cog in the creative machinery that I was recognizing. So for me to have that experience and to have George be that person for me, and then years later end up working with George and being friends with George, is still kind of pinch me sort of stuff.
Yeah. We've got Rick Burchett in studio with us too. I'm not sure if you guys have worked together before, Ron and Rick.
I don't know. Probably not. Although I bounced around in D.C., and maybe Ron was the guy who said he didn't want to work with me. I don't know. Anyway.
Come on, they said they were never going to tell you, Rick.
I got sources, Ron. I got sources.
But Rick had made an interesting comment earlier about he's a fan of the what the heck is going on covers. And there's different types of covers. We were talking about George Pérez, how when you see a George Pérez cover, you basically have a very strong sense of what exactly you'll get when you open the book. Do you have a similar take on George's cover work?
Well, I always knew that, if George was on the cover and I opened the book and he wasn't inside, I was sorely disappointed. But most of the time, he was on the inside.
Yeah.
The Avengers stuff, the Justice League stuff. It was so specific and recognizable to me, even as a kid, that it was the main attraction. And particularly Teen Titans issues. The occasions when George would step away and have to have a fill-in issue on Teen Titans, I was always thrilled to get the issue because it had a George cover, but then slightly disappointed that it wasn't George on the inside.
And I know we're coming up at the top of the hour here without much time left, but we went around the room earlier. Do you have a favorite George Pérez cover, be it a DC or a Marvel cover, that really stands out in your mind?
Yeah, but it's not like the best George cover, and it's not maybe even one that fans would go crazy for. But I can remember specifically plucking it off the rack in a convenience store. It's a Teen Titans cover. I'm not even sure which number it is, and frankly I should be. But it's a Teen Titans cover with the team standing in the rain, and the villains Thunder and Lightning behind them.
That's number 18, I think.
It's a teens. It's in the teens.
But that shot of basically just the team standing there, but in this drenching rain, I can remember seeing it across the store like a siren call to me, and I was like, oh, I got to get that.
Yeah, I as soon as you say that, I can picture it perfectly. I'm trying to use the Googles to see if I can figure out which one it is before I let you go here. But yeah, that's got to be in the teens, like the 16, 17, 18 area. But yeah, I can vividly picture that. That's the great shot of the entire group just kind of right across the cover. Not much more except them in the rain, like you said. But yeah, that's a great cover.
In fact, number 36.
Oh my gosh, I was way off.
It was their second appearance, or I believe it was not the first appearance of Thunder and Lightning. Man, that shot of the rain coming down, and that was probably one of the ones that really pulled me in, and that was one of the ones where it was a George cover, and it wasn't George inside. It was, if I'm recalling correctly, I think it was Keith Pollard, inked by Romeo Tangal inside. But that cover was enough to get me to buy it and to keep coming back.
Yeah, again, just a prolific artist. We're at the very end of the hour, so we've got the news coming up, but I have to let you go. Ron Marz, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to call in tonight. Greatly appreciate it.
Happy to be here, guys. All the love in the world to George. I appreciate him so much.
Thank you so much. And thanks, obviously, to Rick Burchett for being in studio with us. Thank you to Larry Quiggins of Bugs Comics. Make sure you go to bugscomicsandgames.com. Gift cards available. 50% off sale going on right now on wall books. Deals on the back issues as well. Join his Avengers Club so you can get a percentage off every single week from the comic books. And I didn't get to read Max on Movies text because we ran out of time, but Max on Movies is up right after us, so make sure you tune in to Max on Movies. He's got a great Spider-Man show. Until next week, my friends.
To me radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Planet Earth. Good night.
Hey kids, are your parents about to buy you a shiny new toy from Amazon?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Well, don't be selfish. Share some of that money with us. Before going on Amazon, make sure to type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser. It will look just like Amazon.com, except it'll say referral Geek to Me Radio up top. And then when you check out, a tiny percentage will go to support the show without costing you 1 cent more. So before your parents get you that gizmo, gadget, or widget, make sure they type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser.
Bit.ly/geek2me. Bit.ly/geek2me.